The moment I signed the contract, my stomach tightened. Nothing looked wrong on paper, but something inside me whispered, "Don't do this." I ignored it, smiled, shook hands, and that decision quietly changed my life. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 39 years old, living in Columbus, Ohio, working a stable mid-level management job in logistics. On the surface, my life looked fine, predictable, responsible, respectable. I had a mortgage, a reliable car, a routine that ran like clockwork. But beneath all of that, there was a low hum of dissatisfaction I rarely talked about. Not misery, not depression, just a quiet sense that I was living someone else's version of success. Every weekday morning, I drove the same route to work, parked in the same spot, greeted the same people with the same polite smile. And every evening, I returned to a house that felt more like a storage unit for my life than a home filled with meaning. I told myself this was adulthood, stability over passion, logic over impulse. That's when I got the call. It was from an old college acquaintance named Victor Hale. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. Back then, Victor was charismatic, ambitious, and always chasing the next big thing. He never stayed in one place for long. Jobs, cities, even friendships seemed temporary to him. "Daniel," he said, his voice confident and smooth, "I've got an opportunity that's perfect for you." The word opportunity should have excited me. Instead, something subtle shifted inside my chest. Victor explains he had launched a consulting startup focused on supply chain optimization for mid-sized manufacturers. He needed someone with my experience, someone stable, analytical, and trustworthy. The pay was significantly higher than my current salary. The title sounded impressive. The pitch was polished, yet as he spoke, I felt uneasy. Not fear, not doubt exactly, just the quiet internal resistance. I told myself I was being overly cautious. After all, hadn't I complained for years about being stuck? Wasn't this exactly the kind of chance people regret not taking? Victor sent over the proposal that same night. I read it carefully. Everything seemed legitimate. The numbers made sense. The plan was ambitious but not reckless. Still, every time I imagined saying yes, my chest tightened. I couldn't explain it logically, and that bothered me. I've always trusted logic, data, evidence. Intuition felt vague, almost irresponsible. So I did what I always did. I ignored the feeling. Over the next few weeks, Victor and I spoke often. He was persuasive without being pushy. He praised my background, my reliability, my attention to detail. "You've always been the steady one, Daniel. That's exactly what this company needs." People like being needed. People like being seen. Friends and family reacted positively when I mentioned the offer. "Sounds like a no-brainer," my brother said. "You've been undervalued for years," a coworker told me. Even my parents, usually cautious, encouraged me. And slowly the internal voice that whispered, "Something's off," grew quieter. I told myself intuition was just fear wearing a smarter mask. The day before signing the contract, I sat alone in my car outside my house. The papers rested on the passenger seat. My phone buzzed, a message from Victor. Excited to build something great together. I took a deep breath. That tightness returned, stronger this time. But I signed anyway, because logic said yes, because everyone else said yes, because ignoring intuition is easier when the world applauds your decision. The first 3 months were exhilarating. New title, new income, new sense of importance. I traveled frequently, met clients, helped design operational strategies. Victor was charming, visionary, and unpredictable. But I told myself that was just the nature of entrepreneurship. Then small things began to feel off. Invoices delayed, meetings postponed, promises made without follow-through. Victor always had an explanation. He was always confident, always convincing. Cash flow timing, he said once. Client restructuring another time. But that internal whisper, the one I had silenced, started speaking again. Late one evening, I stayed behind after a client meeting. A junior analyst pulled me aside. "Can I ask you something?" she said, lowering her voice. "Do you know where our funding actually comes from?" The question landed heavier than it should. That night, I reviewed documents I hadn't scrutinized before. Corporate structures layered on top of each other. accounts routed through unfamiliar entities. Nothing illegal, at least not on the surface, but nothing transparent either. I emailed Victor with questions. He responded quickly, too quickly. "Daniel, you're overthinking this," he wrote. "Trust me, this is how startups work." That phrase, "trust me," sent a chill through me, because deep down I realized something painful. I didn't trust him. I never had. And worse, I had known that from the beginning. The real turning point came when a client abruptly terminated their contract and demanded a full audit. Legal language, formal notices. Victor brushed it off, but I couldn't. For the first time in years, I couldn't sleep. That tightness in my chest became constant, and that quiet voice inside me didn't whisper anymore. It asked a clear, uncomfortable question. Why didn't you listen when you had the chance? Within 6 months, the company collapsed. Not dramatically, not with headlines or police lights. It dissolved quietly, like a slow leak you notice only when the room is empty. Clients withdrew, funding dried up. Victor disappeared overseas temporarily. Paychecks stopped coming. I was left with a title that meant nothing, savings that evaporated quickly, and a resume now marked by a failed venture I couldn't fully explain. Recruiters asked careful questions. "So, why did you leave?" I struggled to answer honestly without sounding reckless or naive. The financial damage hurt, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was internal. Every setback echoed the same thought. You knew. I replayed that moment in my car, the papers on the seat, the tightness in my chest. That was intuition, not magic, not superstition, just my subconscious processing details faster than my logic could. I ignored it because it didn't come with spreadsheets or approval, and now I paid the cost. I took a lower-paying job months later, humbling but necessary. Yet something had changed in me permanently. I no longer trusted myself the way I once had, not because I failed, but because I had betrayed my own inner warning system. Here's what no one tells you about intuition. It doesn't shout, it doesn't explain itself, and it doesn't beg for attention. It shows up as discomfort, as hesitation, as a quiet sense of not this. We often dismiss it because it lacks language, but intuition is not emotion. It's pattern recognition built from years of lived experience. Your mind notices inconsistencies long before your conscious brain can articulate them. Ignoring intuition doesn't always lead to disaster. Sometimes it leads to slow erosion of confidence, of alignment, of self-trust. I learned that the cost of ignoring intuition isn't just financial or professional, it's psychological. Because once you stop listening to yourself, you start outsourcing your decisions to noise, pressure, and approval. And that's a dangerous habit. Today, when that quiet tightness shows up, I pause. I don't panic, I don't blindly obey it, but I listen. Because intuition isn't asking to control your life. It's asking to be part of the conversation. So here's a question I'll leave you with. What decision in your life are you justifying logically while quietly ignoring what you already know? Sometimes the most expensive mistakes aren't the ones we couldn't predict. They're the ones we felt coming and chose to ignore.